and your ego getting smaller, like the loosening of a collar, and your purpose getting clearer. Spirit family drawing nearer. Went to the water and there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Went to the fire, there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Look to the ground, there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Look to the sky and there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. I know sometimes it feels like you travel too far, finding your way with only the light of stars. Constellation point toward your sacred kin, helping each other to find our unique medicine. And your eyes shining brighter, your heart feeling lighter, and your ego getting smaller, like the loosening of a collar, and your purpose getting clearer. Spirit family drawing nearer. I know a man who's always expecting a prize, and I know a man who thanks the sun when it's on the rise. I know a woman who keeps her dreams locked in a tin, and I know a woman who dances in four directions. And your eyes shining brighter, your heart feeling lighter, and your ego getting smaller, like the loosening of a collar, and your purpose getting clearer. Spirit family drawing nearer. I know a mountain that gets taller the higher you climb, and I know a poem that gets longer the more than you rhyme. I know a dream that gets bigger the more you believe, and I know a bridge that gets stronger the more than you breathe. And your eyes shining brighter, your heart feeling lighter, and your ego getting smaller, like the loosening of a collar, and your purpose getting clearer. Spirit family drawing nearer. Went to the water.
Are we all ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Lyceum here at Cassadaga. How's everyone doing? Very happy to have you with us today. I'm going to start off with some updates. There were some questions that were asked last week I didn't have answers to. So what I do is I go home and I research your questions. Dawn had asked about the history of the world's history of the word spiritualism. The word was first used in 1796, in advocacy of spiritual view. So if your views were spiritual, you were considered a spiritualist, as opposed to materialistic views, then you were considered materialism. So I thought that was interesting. Then it states that the meaning changed in 1853 to mean table rapping. Table rapping. So that was about the time of the Hydesville incidents. Darlene had asked about the Fox parents. Do you remember asking that, Darlene? So let me go through just for a moment so you know the Fox family. The father was John David Fox, born in 1787 in Rockland County, New York. The mother was Margaret Smith, born 1797 in Rockland. They both died in 1865, died the same year. They were married in 1812. John was 25, Margaret was 15. It was okay back then to be 14 and 15 and married. They had 6 children. Emily, born in 1813, who passed away as an infant. Leah, 1813, the same year, to 1890. Maria, 1816. Elizabeth, 1818. Only one son, David, 1820. The Margarita, 1833. Catherine, 1837. One extra thing I'd like to mention is with my research in the Ancestry.com, we talked about Margarita. Was she married to Dr. Kane or not married to Dr. Kane? There is a city directory that lists her name, Margaret Fox Kane, as a widow in 1892. So maybe they were married, maybe the Kane family didn't recognize the marriage. We don't know at this point, but I just did want to mention that. So where did we leave off on the whole spiritualism movement? We've talked about the Hydesville incident. We talked about 1851 when a lot of the groups were meeting and doing home circles. Home circles were a big thing in the past. People would get together. It was almost a social event. And if you've been to, how many people have been to a circle or a seance? Okay, I'm glad the pastor has. What I find interesting, and let me know your thoughts, when you attend these type of events, you start feeling, well, maybe I'm a medium also. And other people started developing their mediumistic abilities, and then they would branch off and start their own home circles. Now, when you attend classes, do you feel, yes, I've got the power also? Do you feel that? What do you do with that? Do you go out and work with your friends? What do you do with this feeling that maybe I'm a medium also? Anyone? Darlene?
You explore Catholic, you find out everything that you can. I mean, it just becomes, if you're coming out and you're going to a set or you're somewhere here, you have a calling.
Right.
So pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention, and if you do feel you do have the calling, practice. If you're meeting here with one of the certified mediums, one of the teachers, that's great. But then you're supposed to take that and practice away from classes. So you build your energy, you build that bond with spirit. Everyone understand that. You've got to, it sounds odd to say, but you have to build a relationship with spirit, just like you build relationships with people on the physical side. Same on the spiritual side. You build that relationship. So then, as a team, physically and spiritually, you can start working together. Yes, Darlene?
I have found that at the same time, you're building a relationship with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You learn to love yourself, and then the rest will
Learn to love yourself. You're building that relationship not only with spirit, but with yourself. Excellent. Thank you so much. So you have all these individuals getting together. They're having their home circles. They're having their seances. And they start to grow. Typically, when a movement starts building, the first thing they want to do is get organized. Well, let's start organizing everybody. Let's organize. So they had their first national convention in 1864. So from 1851, when they started more home circles, to 1864, when they had their first convention. Let's get everyone together, see what everyone else is doing, and come up with a way to be one spiritualist body with many individual, what they called auxiliaries. So that's what they did. They met in 1864 in Chicago. These conventions continued for 9 years. So for 9 years, they tried to build the movement. They tried to build the organization. Then within these 9 years, there were at least eight different organizations or auxiliaries meeting on a regular basis, developing mediumship, developing healers. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. It just stopped. Unknown reason as to why it stopped. Anyone want to take a guess as to why? I don't know the answer. I'm just wondering what you might think. Why all of a sudden did the momentum build, then it stops? Anyone?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Why would you think it would stop? If you're building a momentum for 9 years, then all of a sudden it just stopped.
What was the momentum like?
Spiritualism.
Okay. I have two theories on that.
Go ahead.
One, I think, is when we became an actual religion.
It's a little later, but yes, we're getting there.
Where were we at then?
We're 1864 to 1863. We still got 20 more years before we become a religion.
Okay. Let me think about that.
Yes, sir.
Either too much organization or the leadership disappeared.
Absolutely. You see that, not knowing who was trying to build the organization. Maybe they passed away, maybe they moved away, maybe they lost interest, maybe whoever was trying to get the group together just said, hey, just isn't going to work. We don't know at this point. But one person said the timing was not right. I get that. The timing wasn't right. I get it. So not having those formal meetings as an organization, it kind of started to fall apart. But the mediums, the home circles, the seances were continuing. So people were building their own little, tribes, their home organizations, their base. They're still building it. And so the public was being exposed more and more to spirit communication, to seances, to home circles. And as the word got out and more people started attending these home circles, you would see that cities, states would start passing ordinances, calling like the fortune-telling ordinance, that you have to be regulated or you can't have these seances because you're fortune-telling. Mediums were starting to be arrested. Mediums were put in jail. They were fined fees because this movement was building, even though it wasn't organized at the time. It just started building. Churches perhaps got a little nervous. You know, people of power were getting a little nervous that this organization or this group of people were getting larger and larger. So in order to protect the mediums was the reason they started organizing again. So now we're up to 1893. We've jumped 20 years without having an organization. We've jumped within those 20 years where mediums were being arrested, they're being fined. So the one reason they decided to try to organize again, was once you were considered a religious organization, then you could feel free to practice your religion of spirit communication. So 1893, we're jumping. What happened in 1893? What world event happened? Anyone know? Your history. 1893, Chicago. World's Fair. World's Fair. So now we have a world event happening in Chicago. It's a great time to try and get organized one more time. And there was also the World Parliament of Religions meeting in Chicago during the same time. So in September of 1893, a meeting took place in Chicago to organize the spiritualist groups. They wanted to come together under one umbrella, one organization. Let me find this page real quick. I wanted to read to you. A lot of the information I'm reading you or I have is from the Morris Pratt. On September 27th, 1893, the year of the World's Fair in Chicago, the first delegate convention of the Spiritualists of the United States of America convened in Chicago. The meeting was called to order at 12:40 in the afternoon. Okay, we've got all these people together. What's our agenda? Well, we want to organize. We want to open a permanent office. We want to have furnishings where people feel comfortable coming to the office. We want to build temples and lecture halls. Not churches, temples and lecture halls. We want to organize and build our curriculum. We want to organize lecturers. So that was the goal at the time. Let's get organized. Let's create this organization. This is what we need to do. So it happened. They came together for their first convention. They organized. They elected a body, the board of trustees. The first president was Harrison Barrett. The vice president was Cora Richmond. Cora Richmond's a name we'll talk about in the future when we talk about mediumship Secretary Treasurer, 5 trustees, and the 5th trustee was George Colby from Lake Helen, Florida. George Colby we will talk at a later date also. So the association filed for incorporation November the 1st, 1893 in Washington. And the organization was called the National Spiritualist Association of the United States of America. So how did you think we did? Was it any better as an organization? Yes or no?
No.
No. Why is that? Why? There was a no in the audience. Why do you say no, Pastor Gates?
At that point, you had too many people with different ideas of how the religion should work. You had all these different religions playing into spiritualism, which took it on a road, which then had to be manifested later to try to make it a spiritualist organization.
That's right. We're creating a new religion. That's what they were trying to do. And so for 50 years, yes, you could come hang out with the spiritualists because they weren't a religious organization. It was great. Go to the home circles, go to the seances, and still go to your established denomination on Sunday. Then Monday through Saturday, you could still hang out with the spiritualist movement. But once we became a religion, either or, they didn't, some of the churches did not like. Yes, sir.
Didn't it already exist in England?
I don't have the date for England. I will get that for you. But it's around the same time, so I would say yes. I'll get that for next week. Now I have homework. Yes, sir.
It was a little bit later after that one of the mediums actually from the United States went to England and they formed the religion there in England, but it was a little bit later than that.
A little later than 1893? Okay. I'll get that information. Thank you. So we want to become a religion. We want to be known as a religious organization, a church. What's the first thing we need to do? Well, what do you stand for? All right, we're going to put a committee together to figure out what we stand for. Old saying, if you want to kill an idea, put it in a committee. Right? 7 years it took. 7 years it took to get the principles, at least the first 5, together. Before I get to the principles. So in 1893, they formed the National Spiritualist Association of the United States of America. 1920. We don't like that name. We're going to change it to the National Spiritualist Association. 1953. Let's change our name again. Now they changed it to the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. That's the main organization today. So in 1897, 5 years after the first convention, they decided, here's our principles. Now, do you have the principles we have today? If you have these in front of you, just look at them and you can, if you have them. So, the first declaration, we believe in infinite intelligence. Same as today. Now, the spiritualist organization I was with prior, their first principle was, we believe in infinite spirit or infinite intelligence, and God is infinite intelligence. They wanted to incorporate God into the first principle. Second principle, we believe in the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. Same as today. Number 3, we affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. Same as today. 4, we affirm the existence and the personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. Same as today. 5, we affirm the communication with the so-called dead is a fact scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. Same as today. So at that convention, a gentleman by the name of Moses Hull got up and said, we need a 6th one. We need to add the golden rule. Whatever you would that others should do unto you, do ye also unto them. So now we have our first 6. And what I would like to read to you is the changes the committee got together and all the changes. Number 7, in 1909, 11 years later, we had number 7. At the time, we affirm the moral responsibility of the individual and that he makes his own happiness or unhappiness as he obeys or disobeys nature's psychic laws. Psychic laws. Number 8, same year, we affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul, here or hereafter. I believe we just say soul. Why would they say human soul versus just soul? Any guess? Yes, Darlene.
Differentiates between what may be perceived as lower life forms.
What's a lower life form?
Animals.
There you go. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
They're just saying humans are the only ones that have souls.
No,
We know that. We know that. Number 7. I'm sorry. In 1920, number 7 was changed. Deleted psychic laws to read, we affirm that the moral responsibility of the individual and that he makes his own happiness or unhappiness as he obeys or disobeys nature's physical and spiritual laws. That's what we have today. Number 9, 1930. We affirm that healing the sick by spirit through healing mediums is one of the strongest fundamental doctrines of spiritualism. That was a resolution. People thought that was a little wordy, so it was never adopted. 1944, we try again, the 9th principle. We affirm that the biblical precepts of prophecy are a divine or God-given attribute, scientifically proven through the mediums by the phenomena of spiritualism. That one didn't catch either. Didn't catch on. Number 10, 1947. The 10th principle. We only have 9 now, but they were offering a 10th one. We affirm that the truth of spiritual healing as practiced by humans throughout the ages, as recorded in the sacred books of the past, is a basic manifestation of the spiritualist philosophy, religion, and science. Can you imagine stating that every Sunday? That one didn't hold up either. 1950. Let's go back and look at number 5 again. We affirm that the prophecy, revelation, gift of tongues, laying on of hands, healing, apparitions, visions, apports, automatic and independent writing, and the voice of spirit are all defined methods of communication with the so-called dead and are manifested through physical, mental, and the spiritual senses facilities of man. Wow. What a mouthful that would have been every Sunday. But they adopted it. 1951, number 5. That's too wordy. Let's just go back to the old way of saying it. 1951, the 9th principle was amended. We affirm that the precept of prophecy, as contained in the Bible, is a divine attribute proven through mediumship. 1983, we amended number 9, the long one, to read, we affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing as contained in the Bible are divine attributes proven through mediumship. That's what we have. 1993, and the only reason I'm doing this is just to let you know that the principles change over time. As our knowledge changes, principles change. 93, number 7, change to we affirm the moral responsibility of individuals, that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. 1995, number 9 was amended again. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing as contained in all sacred texts are divine attributes proven through mediumship. 3 years later, no, we're going to go back to the old way of saying it. So it does change, and it has changed over the years. As philosophy changed, we change personally, our philosophies change. So they did create a national headquarters. I didn't write that down. Where was that? Was that in New York, Chicago, New York? The original headquarters? New York? I have to look that one up also. And then in what year did it move to Cassadaga? In the 50s. Sometime in the 50s, they closed their northern office and moved everything down here to Cassadaga. Yes, sir.
Do you know if the Ten Commandments were ever changed?
Were they ever changed? To my knowledge, they were not.
What I thought.
I mean, once you put it on a tablet, you can't erase and start over. I don't think it was, John. Yes, sir.
I want to address his question about England. It was 1852. It was brought to England by Mrs. Hayden.
1852.
1852. By Mrs. Hayden.
So about the same time, the organizations and auxiliaries were starting over here. Now they have the Spiritualist Nationalist Union, SNU. So any questions about that? You have a question? So if you go into our bookstore, we have the hymnal, we have the manual. And you can see the manual whenever it's reprinted, it'll give you the date in the front. It has been reprinted a number of times and updated. 1911 was the first. First manual came out in 1911. First hymnal came out in 1911. I have the first hymnal. I don't have the first manual. One year I was at Lilydale, New York, and I was in their office, and on someone's desk was the original manual from 1911. I wanted so bad just to pick that up and bring it home with me, but I couldn't. That'd be bad karma if you believe in karma. So we organized, we became a religion. The whole idea of meeting the year 1893 in Chicago, the world's religions were meeting also. So we met before they did. We organized. We asked Cora Richmond to come up with an introduction, then go to the Convention of World Religions and petition to become a member. For many years, I thought that happened. I went and bought every book I could from 1893 on the World Religions meeting and kept looking. Why did they leave out spiritualism? The reason was we went and they wouldn't let us participate because we weren't a religion. After that, then we incorporated to become a religion. So that brings us, yes, John?
How did the other religions get to be religion if they weren't a religion in the first place?
You can call yourself a religion, or you can incorporate yourself as a religion. So in 1893, we incorporated as a business, as a religion, to be recognized as a religion.
So they let us in.
Well, it was already over by then. And they haven't had another one since. One-shot deal, John. And we missed it.
So we're not a religion?
We are a religion. We just weren't a religion in time to be put in their book. I'll bring those next week. Yes, sir.
I wanted to say something. Now that you read the 9 principles of religion, but I researched the principles, and back before the principles were actually written by National, it was actually written by Christian Spiritual Association, and the principles were all laid out, but in different wording, but the wording is a lot like what National went ahead and put in motion. So I almost took from that a lot of the Christians who then became spiritualists took that from that part of that religion and brought it forward and tried to make it into this. Because I still have the original book from that religion from 1872, and it actually has all the principles laid out in that book, but in different form. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. A lot of the information I'm sharing is written from the national organization. So I don't have privy to that book. That'd be great if you could bring it.
I'll show you the book.
We'll show it next week.
That's
So-
what it loves.
So ask yourself this question. Are we any better off now that we've organized into a religion? There's no right or wrong answer. Are we any better? Darlene? Darlene, you get brownie points for all your questions.
Let's see how that works. By being a religion, because if you're discriminated against because of what we believe, or if someone at your workplace thinks you're a wackadoodle from Cassadaga, all you have to say is this is my religion, and it kind of quells some of that. And it protects the media.
It does protect. You have something to say, Pastor Gates?
I laughed when we went to Tennessee and Bree got sick. I mean, we went into the hospital and they said, "What's your religion?" And we said, "Spiritualism." You know, there was about 20 people struggling from all parts of the hospital trying to figure out who we were. Because they'd never heard of that religion. And they wanted to see who these people were that were spiritual in Tennessee.
I remember also going to the hospital, and they asked me my religion. I said I'm a spiritualist, because they put it on the band. At the time, they put your religion on the band. And as I looked, they didn't put spiritualist, they put other. Other. Yes, I'm an other. I guess spiritualist was not built into the computers. I don't know. Other. So over the years, the National Spiritualist Association of Churches built up many auxiliary churches. I think Florida had. I've got to find my little book on the directory. We had dozens of spiritualist churches in Florida. Yes, John.
You sure on your bed didn't say outer?
Said what?
Outer.
Outer? Like outer space? Or
Yeah,
get out of
out of
here?
mind.
It might have.
This guy's out of his mind.
This for.
What was I saying? I don't know.
Spiritualist churches in Florida.
The spiritualist churches in Florida. Thank you, Jamie. They built up the organization, and then, once you get to be a large organization, your little auxiliary churches sometimes feel left out. sometimes they don't want to change the wording in the principles. They go to a convention and someone makes them mad, so they go back to their church and say, we're pulling out. We're going to become independent. And that's what happens. That's what happened with Cassadaga. We pulled out, became independent. What year?
Lewis?
What
Was
year?
there-
That was in the 1980s.
1981, 82, something like that. 1980.
Yeah, it was the early 80s. I just don't know what
That's when they pulled out and we took over.
Right. Yes, John.
To me, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but I think every religion is spiritual.
Correct.
Every religion has spirituality in it, or else it wouldn't be religion. So I don't understand why there's any, bickering about being a spiritual. I think every religion is spiritual.
If you look at the main difference in our religion is this communication with spirit. And that goes against the interpretation of the Bible for other religions. They're interpreting the Bible that...
So praying to Jesus is the same.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
I don't understand the problem.
One could say competition, politics, thank you, Jamie.
Stupidity.
Could be a lack of understanding, a better way of saying that. Absolutely.
Tithing,
What is that?
money for this church.
Money. If you look in the manual, if you go online, some of the, a lot of my books are still packed because I moved. A lot of the old spiritualist churches were beautiful churches. They were nice, big buildings, gorgeous buildings. But over time, the national organization just did not keep up with them and sold them off. We just saw that in Mississippi. Jamie was showing me an article in the paper where the Mississippi Spiritualist Camp closed and the city was auctioning off all the property. And the one stipulation was whoever bought it had to tear down all the buildings. They wanted something there that was revenue generating instead of a religious organization that doesn't pay taxes. So, we are at the time where we stop. Is there any questions that you would like me to answer or something to research for next week? Next week is our last lecture on spiritualism. Then we're going to move into mediumship. We do have some other teachers coming in next month to talk about their mediumship. Anything you'd like to discuss before we go? Okay. Thank you for joining us today and have a great week. Thank you.
It's bigger the more you believe. And I know a bridge that gets stronger the more that you breathe. And your eyes shining brighter, your heart feeling lighter, and your ego getting smaller, like the loosening of a collar, and your purpose getting clearer, spirit family drawing nearer. Went to the water and there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Went to the fire, there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Look to the ground, there's a lot of days and a lot of ways to see. Look to the sky and there's a lot of days though sometimes it feels like you travel too far. Finding your way with only the light of stars.